Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you in BNI world, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Stephen Yakimets, and I'm a Senior Director Consultant with BNI Alberta North. I am so pleased to welcome and offer up to you today the Jenny Yu from Calgary, Alberta. Jenny is a project lead and procurement specialist at the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises with the Government of Canada. Jenny is a dynamic and passionate public servant with extensive experience in federal procurement, entrepreneurial support, and stakeholder engagement. She's helping entrepreneurs and businesses learn about the federal procurement business, how the Government of Canada buys goods and services, and where to find opportunities. Today, Jenny's going to be busting some of those common myths about doing business with the Government of Canada and helping us find out how to do business with the federal government. And with that, I'm going to ask you to mute yourselves and pass it over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you everyone for joining me in today's session. And congratulations on being part of such a wonderful event, just like all events that BNI and BNI directors and members hold. This continues to be one of my favorite partners to work with personally and also in the work capacity. I'm Jenny Yu with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, and I'm here to help you bust some myths together with you on doing business with the Government of Canada. So congratulations, first of all, and thank you, Stephen, and to the BNI team nationally for putting up this another annual event and taking it completely virtual with such a great lineup of speakers. It's my pleasure to be here with everyone today. So before we begin today's event, an important step in reconciliation and acknowledgement of traditional treaty land and for the people of the territory, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that acknowledging territory shows recognition of and respect for Aboriginal peoples. It is recognition of their presence both in the past and also the present as well. As I'm currently streaming in from Alberta, I acknowledge that we are on traditional territories in Alberta of the very many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. I recognize that this is a national event and therefore we are all connecting from different places and that therefore you may be in a different traditional Indigenous territory. I encourage that you take a moment to reflect on that and acknowledge it. So what I hope to do with you in this session is basically just bust some common perceptions in doing business with the Government of Canada. But I will preface that we're going to be covering a lot of information, and anytime, as you can see, that you engage, BNI and access their treasure chest and access, resources such as partners like the Government of Canada Office of Small and Medium Enterprise, there's going to be a lot of information download. So if you're a note taker, great. I encourage you to continue doing so. If you're not, either way, we have your back. We're going to be sending you with some post-session notes and resources that you can use as self-reference guides and sheets as well. And I myself will also make myself an accessible resource to you. Feel free to knock on my door and any of our colleagues located all throughout Canada, throughout our 6 regional offices as well. If you own and operate business in Canada, whether or not you have experience in selling your good or service to the Government of Canada, we hope that today's session is helpful in dispelling some of those myths, plus also leave you with some practical tips and also tangible takeaways in embarking on that supplier journey. We do want to emphasize that the information learned is meant to empower you. It doesn't mean that 100% of the time when you're assessing opportunities that it would be a direct fit for you to be a direct vendor to the Government of Canada, but we do believe that that information will help you in your business decisions, such as, for example, assess whether you want to sell directly to the Government of Canada, add the government to your client portfolio, or maybe identify some potential outsourcing opportunities, partner opportunities, joint ventures, or even just leverage that procurement data in helping you determine market trends and position yourself for future opportunities. So with that said, let's go. Okay, so today's presentation is presented to you by the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises. You'll hear me refer to it as OSME for short. We belong to the Department of Public Services and Procurement Canada, which is essentially the procurement arm of the Government of Canada, of the federal service. So OSME exists to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in learning more about the federal procurement process so that you can navigate it better and thus also leverage the information to kind of assess and evaluate whether adding the government as one of your clients is a direct fit for you as well. We provide our services to you for free through seminars, partner information sessions such as the one with BNI, workshops, and one-on-one tailored assistance as well. So feel free to reach out at any time. We have 6 regional offices all throughout Canada. I can provide you with services even if you don't operate business in the region that I'm in, which is Western region, covering Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and of course, Alberta. And if you operate business outside of the region of the OSME specialist that you're working with, we do still recommend that you contact someone local to your region, because there could be some really good local resources, such as directing you to a BNI chapter that would be very helpful for you to know about as well. All right, so let's start by talking about how much the government buys. So if we're not counting the emergency procurement and the expenditures because of COVID, on average, we spend about $23 billion per year buying goods and services in order to continue serving Canadians, ensuring operations of all departments and agencies. And contrary to popular belief, the majority of those contracts or transactions actually happen with small and medium enterprises than they do more with large corporations. So whether or not this is labeled as a myth, I'm going to say that we're busting one already. So when people do think of the government of Canada as a potential client, if they think of the government as a potential client at all, they'll often think of it as one client. But in reality, as I just mentioned earlier, that we are comprised of over 100 departments and agencies. Each one of those departments and agencies have their unique needs, and they're also spread out throughout the country as well. This represents hundreds of potential clients for you and also represents a lot of opportunities for you to explore as well. So let's see here. One of the common myths that we hear when we are engaging with suppliers and entrepreneurs like yourself is that, I don't think the government buys from small companies like, or entrepreneurs like myself. And hopefully in today's presentation, we'll be able to dispel some of those perceptions as well. As I mentioned earlier, more so than not, the government is actually doing business with small and medium enterprises than they do with larger corporations. But of course, it's usually those big ticket items, so to speak, that hit the media or grab your attention, such as shipbuilding services, or when we're purchasing aircraft and things like that, right? So you do have to be a shipbuilding service provider or able to provide, fighter jets if that's what we're looking for. But in reality, most of the goods and services that we're buying is actually being provided by small and medium enterprises as well. And whether you count it from a dollar amount perspective annually or a number of contracts, the majority of those are actually being done with small and medium enterprises, smaller companies like yourself as well. Another myth that we often hear or get from companies saying, no, I understand that the government does, buy a lot of goods and services and spends a lot of money doing business with Canadian businesses, but I still think that I'm too small to sell to the government. Well, in addition to, as I mentioned, contracting with larger companies that do provide goods or services in the caliber that's needed, such as shipbuilding services or firefighter jets, we actually do business with smaller companies that can be as small as a solopreneur. And if we're talking about definition of defining what a small medium enterprise is, we can follow the graphic here saying, if you employ, 1 to maybe 499 people. However, this is just a general kind of definition. If you operate a business and you have 501 employees, it's not like we're going to say, no, you don't fall under the SME category or small medium enterprise category. OSME services aren't suitable for you. Not at all. In fact, quite to the contrary, if I may in layman's terms basically say, we don't really care the size of your business as long as you can provide the good or service that we're really asking for and you're able to meet the mandatories. But specifically OSME, the OSME offices do provide assistance to smaller companies, small and medium enterprises. All right. Another common myth is that the government doesn't buy from businesses like mine. You might belong to a specific social economic group or provide some pretty niche services or products, and you're slowly starting to be convinced that the government does, do business with smaller businesses, but you still aren't fully convinced that they buy from businesses like yours. Well, it's important for me to emphasize that the way that the government of Canada buys, regardless to who's acting as the buyer entity, we have to abide by federal laws, regulations, Treasury Board policy of Canada policies, along with trade agreements. So we must make procurement open, fair, and transparent, and also accessible for anyone that would like to participate. All suppliers have an equal chance at doing business with us. Again, it's more about if you meet the mandatory requirements stipulated in the solicitation notice, like essentially like if you're able to meet the ask. And in fact, on top of making sure that we continue prioritizing supplier diversity, it's actually very important for the government of Canada to ensure that procurement is accessible to everyone, because that's invested interest to us. The more that we are able to diversify our supplier base means that we are open to even more solutions, able to be more innovative, create a positive economic impact, and also have access to better solutions, and also be better stewards of your tax dollars. There are a lot of procurement strategies that are established in a way to make sure that we place focus on supporting priority focus groups, such as the ones that you see on the screen here. If you want any information or more detailed information on this or anything that I mentioned today, again, feel free to reach out. We'll make sure that before the end of the session, Stephen and I, my Zoom Jedi for today, and I share my direct contact. And in one of the slides at the end during the Q&A, you'll also have the ability to take a look at the website links that you can access and our general mailbox as well. But if you want to contact me directly, we'll make sure you leave with the contact. If not, you can contact any of your BNI executive directors or contacts, or specifically Moji if you operate business or a member of BNI Alberta South. All right, next myth. We're moving along great here. The government doesn't buy what I sell. Well, again, there are some usual commodities that we commonly buy at, quite a high frequency, such as the one showing on the slide here, technology related products and services, things to support military purposes, things that have to do with managing properties, professional services, construction, right? That's something that you'll commonly think about when you think about government operations, but there's so much more than that that falls under the category of what you likely provide, such as catering services, landscaping services, dog grooming. Outside of this list, I can think of even golf carts, adventure training services, photography services, anything that you can think of that you likely sell, we likely buy. All right, so next myth here. Government procurement is difficult and time consuming. I'm going to be super honest with you. I've been with procurement, specifically with the federal government, for about 12 years now. And if you asked me this or said this to me about 10 years ago, I'm going to have to tend to agree with you. However, as of current, I am very happy to share that we have made great strides to simplify the process much more. Well, first of all, leading with OSME services, supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses, and learning how to navigate the federal procurement process, plus also ensuring that there are programs and initiatives that continue to show that procurement is open, fair, and transparent. There are also other procurement modernization programs and initiatives to continue making federal procurement and selling to the government of Canada much more accessible to you, such as moving procurement digital and completely electronic, accepting e-post submissions for bids, shortening the time for payment terms, using more simplified contract language, and listening to your concerns so that we may reduce barriers to entry. Next myth here, or perceived barrier in doing business with the government of Canada, is that government procurement is centralized. So this is a perfect audience today because it's a national conference. There are thousands of BNI members operating business all throughout Canada, and today's event is also open to the public as well, even if you're not a BNI member. So you'll often, if you operate business in other regions outside of, let's say, Ottawa, you might actually think, well, if I'm not in Ottawa, I'll likely not be able to do business with the government of Canada because government procurement is centralized. But the truth is that we're not centralized. In fact, we're comprised of over 100 departments and agencies, and each have their own buying authority and buying delegation. So if we use the RCMP as an example, there are a lot of detachments all spread out throughout the country and sometimes in even remote areas. So you being a local business and being innovative, you actually have a competitive advantage. So if I was to use, for example, janitorial services or landscaping services, you being local to that department or agency will likely make it so that your margins are healthier to provide a more competitive price, and having your bid be having a lead advantage than it is from someone that would have to, let's say, look at other logistics or resources to transport or fly someone over to fulfill those services as well. And that's just one department as an example. All right, so since I've been mentioning procurement and buying and delegations of authority, let's go over a little bit from a high level or procurement 101, so to speak, on how the government buys goods and services. So typically the government buys goods and services most commonly through some sort of a competitive process. So whether we're running a request for quote or publishing a tender and in the form of a request for proposal, or let's say supply arrangements or standing offers. We have other seminars and workshops that we can work with BNI with to unpack those a little bit, but sticking to just high level information and myth busting today. In general, how we buy is basically like we exercise our different delegations of authority. So departments and agencies are able to have the authority to buy on their own, or if they exceed that authority, they'll have to come to our department as the common service provider to work with them to fulfill that procurement. So typically, what do those thresholds, let's say levels of authority, look like? For goods, is anything above $25,000 will need to come to our department. For services, typically anything above $40,000, or that level could jump up to even $400,000 or even higher than that, depending on the complexity and the department or agencies. Like if there's construction involved, or if it's for the Department of National Defense, they might have a higher authority. This is important for you to know because departments and agencies can be your direct clients, in addition to looking to our department for those publicly posted tenders and open opportunities that you can explore bidding on as well. This is also important for you to know because in order for you to be aware of those opportunities or be aware of opportunities to promote yourselves to those potential clients, you want to be able to differentiate how the government buys. However, as I mentioned in earlier slides, that regardless to who is buying, whether it's the department or agency buyer directly or through the open tender system through our department, the same rules apply. All right, so for the requirements that are more of lower dollar value, so to speak, so under those thresholds that I mentioned in the previous slide, that departments and agencies can go ahead and buy through their own processes, those are usually classified as lower dollar value procurement. But I'm sure that we can all agree that anything under $40,000 in services or anything under $25,000 in goods is still good business, even though from a threshold standpoint is considered lower dollar value. So I just wanted to let you know here that the majority of lower dollar value contracts are still awarded through some sort of a competitive process. So again, upholding the integrity of the federal procurement process and ensuring that it's always open, fair, and transparent. You'll see here one of the bullet points says that there are non-competitive approaches that can be used. I can let you know that that does happen. However, when it does happen, it has to meet requirements and be able to be justified. So it can't just be like, oh, I know my cousin or uncle can supply that good or service. I'm just going to give them a call and issue them the contract. No, for sure, it has to remain open, fair, and transparent. The way we buy has to abide by federal laws, regulations, policies, and also trade agreements. And this is again to uphold the integrity of the process and to ensure that federal procurement opportunities is open and accessible to anyone that wants to participate as well. Oh, I see more people joining. I thank you, Stephen, ahead of time for being the Zoom Jedi and helping me manage the waiting room as well. All right, next. So as I mentioned to you, like hopefully up to this point, I've been able to convince you that doing business with the government of Canada can be explored, and there are resources for you to continue assessing whether or not there's a direct fit. If there's any link or resource that you take away from today's presentation, besides contacting OSME if you need any assistance, I hope that it be this resource right here, which is www.buyandsell.gc.ca. The best way for me to put this is that this is the grand repository of government procurement information, the authoritative source for anything and everything related to what the government buys, who we're buying from, and what we're buying. So access to this site is completely free. However, there is a way for you under the For Businesses tab to register as a supplier or a vendor. And even though you can access all the information and even the bidding opportunities for free, I do recommend that you take the steps to register yourself as a vendor, because what it does is it allows for you to land in this main supplier registration index database that buyers in departments and agencies will often use in their research, up to even to identify potential suppliers within their region and what they're looking for in order to send those requests for quotes or requests for proposals directly to for those lower dollar value procurements. So, hey, if the tool is free to access, great. But if there are some functionalities within it that can give you more benefits, plus increase your company's capabilities or visibility and help its capabilities be better known, why not utilize that, right? And we offer assistance in walking you through that process as well. However, if you want to explore it yourself, just go under the For Businesses tab, and it's a fairly simple process. You only need 2 pieces of information in order to fulfill that multi-step verification process, which only takes a few minutes, and that's your CRA number, just to indicate that you're able to legally operate business in Canada, and the 2 is your legal business name. Perfect. Now these next 2 slides are just to let you know that in line with making procurement more accessible and modernizing procurement, we are going to be transitioning to moving procurement completely digital and electronic. If you want to get ahead of the time, so to speak, launching this summer and then taking, the next few months, even up to the next 2 years to transition, is canadabuys.canada.ca, or you can go to canadabuys.com as well. That's going to be where procurement is going to head to. You can also create a profile there. However, Jenny is not teaching you about buy and sell today just so that it changes tomorrow. Any opportunities are still going to be posted on buy and sell. If that procurement is going to be fulfilled on Canada Buys, you'll be directly linked to it as well. But I just wanted to give you that heads up as well. All right. And of course, anytime you need any assistance exploring any opportunities or learning how to navigate the federal procurement process, please feel free to know that we are here, OSME are here to help you. You can contact us directly or go through your BNI resources. I know BNI University, so to speak, has a treasure chest full of information that we have shared with them before, but we also offer one-on-one assistance, so to provide you with more tailored assistance, more pertaining to your business. Open forums like these are really great for networking and also engagement, but we also do know that there could be some questions related to some proprietary to you and your business information that you may not be comfortable sharing. So no problem. Feel free to access any of these resources in the way that best suits you. So as I mentioned to you, we offer seminars through partners like BNI. We offer them directly to you as well, and one-on-one meetings. Here's the information here. We'll make sure to share it with you later on as well if you miss it. And just to let you know, as I mentioned to you before, we operate business in all 6 regions throughout Canada, and these are the regions. I'm personally from the Western Region office. However, we have mighty officers and specialists that can assist you in any one of the regions listed here as well. So feel free to contact me if you don't want to contact them directly. I'd be more than happy to do a warm intro for you as well. On the note of sharing good programs and resources that are accessible or considerable for you, if it fits, are some innovation programs as well. So if you play in the innovation space, whether or not you have a solution that's ready to market, here are a couple programs that are of notable mention. One is through the Canadian Armed Forces or Department of National Defense, which is called IDEAS. It's exactly how it sounds and spelt, but it stands for Innovation for Defense Excellence excellence, and security. The best way for me to describe this program is that it is essentially the Canadian Armed Forces and Department of National Defense publishing their unclassified problem statements and inviting Canadian innovators to the table to help solve. What's unique about this program is that when you're exploring tender opportunities or selling to the government of Canada, it's usually contract dollars that you're able to get, right? But this program actually has access to different buckets of money that can be provided to you through the program, which is like grants, contributions, and things, and along with contract dollars as well. And you don't even have to have a ready to market solution. It could be a partial solution, and you just need to signal your interest or respond to some of the challenges, and you'll be able to explore the next stages of participating in the program.
Sorry
Another one that,
Jenny.
sorry, go ahead.
Got, 5 minutes left.
Thank you for the timekeeping. Another program that's notable for me to mention is Innovative Solutions Canada's testing stream. So if you have an innovation that you're working on or someone that you're working with and you want to explore making the government one of your first clients, this is also one of the programs that you can explore. Lastly, this is not necessarily a program, it's an app that you can download on your smart device if you don't have it already. The Canada Business app is a very user-friendly app. You can just click through the icons, answering different prompting questions, and it'll get you to the resource that you would like that exceeds just our department, all other departments as well, even up to other levels of government. So I just wanted to leave you with that resource as well. And this brings us to the last 5-minute fire chat, quick rapid fire Q&A. Stephen, would you like to help me moderate this, or should I just look to the chat, or are we a small enough, intimate enough group to unmute and ask? What do you think?
We're a small enough and intimate enough group to unmute and chat. I don't see any questions in the chat here. So anyone that has questions, feel free to unmute and fire away.
Perfect. So in the meantime, as we're taking the questions, I'm just going to pop my email into the chat so that you guys have it.
Hi, Jenny. My name is Zishan Adatia. I'm from Insight Investigations. I operate a private investigation business. And I was just wondering if you've even ever heard of government contracts being offered to private investigators?
Yes and no. You know, what we can do is definitely go on buy and sell and even use some keywords that you want to use, or if you know the commodity code for specific to your service, we can take a look at if there's any active opportunities. But what the tool will also provide for is contract history. So even past notices. So that's definitely a way that we can explore answering exactly like, you know, has the government bought what I sell?
Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Janice, I noticed you had unmuted there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like in the bid and the tender process, does it outline like if there are specific certifications or, you know, things that are required, say, for example, in the construction industry, if there's some sort of safety certifications required of the company before they can do business with the government?
Absolutely. Thank you, Janice. That's a very great question. So every single notice from the government related to procurement, whether it's being sent directly to you by the department or agency, or it's being published on the tender site, you can expect the following. You can expect that we share what the government is looking to buy, who we're looking to buy it for, why we're looking to buy it, and how. And the how is where we unpack exactly what you mentioned, not only the evaluation criteria, but also our basis of selection and also all the minimum mandatory. So yes, and that's usually why government solicitation documents seem very overwhelming or daunting at first, because they're likely multiple pages, but it's because, again, in order to keep the process open, fair, and transparent, we don't actually share with you the information on a per stage basis. We share it to you upfront already, from beginning to end, up to, you know, contract management and even material management. And this is so that you can use that information to evaluate whether or not you would like to bid, and also what to expect. All that information will also help you, in a sense, shape your bid or even sharpen your pencil to ensure that you're trying to put it in the front running position. So going back to your question, Janice, if there's any minimum mandatory, such as whether it's performance specifications, standards, or certifications, certifications, it will definitely be listed in there. I do have a tip that I want to tag onto answering this question, which is usually when you read the document, if you see that there is a minimum mandatory that you either meet or don't meet, but it's questionable, as in like, I'm able to show that I meet this standard, but not in the way that the government is saying should be shown. You can actually use one of what our group believes to be one of the most highly underutilized mechanism, which is contact the contracting authority of that notice of that procurement. That person's name and email and contact info is listed under contact information on the notice, on the front page, and also throughout the document. Most people will think, oh, my comment, feedback, input, or question has to be of a certain caliber in order to warrant contacting someone. That's not true. The tenders are published for a certain amount of days for the purpose of making sure that the public knows about it, so that it generates interest, allows for people to participate, but it's also meant to generate dialogue to inform the procurement process. So this is when you can actually ask the question. And while your question may not influence a change in the way that you ideally want it, it would definitely help you be provided with information that can help you understand. Or it may actually trigger a change because, those procurement officers or even the clients and the technical authorities don't know what they don't know, right? A lot of times we are just being prescriptive about a solution because there was a need, there was a problem statement, and then we needed to kind of define what those possible solutions are. And then we went out to set a procurement process and ask for those possible solutions. But there could be very much, outside of those solutions available to us that we rely on you to tell us about. So hopefully that answered your question, Janice.
This has been terrific. Thank you so much, Jenny. We do need to move on to the next presentation right away here. Thank you so much for presenting today. It has been a wealth of information. I've got a page of notes here that I have scribbled as much as we can. Jenny has put her contact information in the chat, so please take it from there. And everybody, thank you so much for attending. And up next is Tiffany Kellogg talking about how we always get a yes when asking for referrals. Thank you again, Jenny.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone. See you guys soon in all the other events. Bye.